You know, lately I've been doing huge projects like this massive mountain range over here, or maybe all my industrial district I've started pretty recently. Even all of my starter kind of things, like my first starter base is a mega base, my huge museum, even just these small little villages I've started to work on. Everything is so huge and I've been playing so fast. So in today's episode, we're going to take it a little slow and make a nice relaxing zen pond. Now, recently, I've been kind of stressing myself out trying to go bigger and bigger for every single episode, but at some point, you kind of have to take a step back and just work on the basics. I mean, Minecraft doesn't always have to be the game where you have to bake the biggest bases or the biggest farms or anything like that. Sometimes you just want to take it slow and just build something nice. So today, we're going to head down and find a nice place for this Zen Pond area. Now, with all this custom terrain around here that I just built in the last episode, I'm thinking something around here should work. I'm thinking turning this entire area into just very custom terrain. No builds need to be in here, just kind of making it all look really pretty. So I'm thinking maybe just down here in this opening, kind of on the edge where I left off on the build, because it actually goes to around here if I turn the Litematica on, but I wanted to kind of mesh it into other builds as it goes, depending on if I want to keep this style, make a lot more mountains, or maybe transition to plains, or do whatever I want. I don't need to stick to a certain style and stuff like that. So I think right around here on the edge, maybe just going up to around here would be the kind of outskirts of it. We got to kind of clear out all this tall grass out of the area. And of course, this is going to be removed. Maybe today, maybe another time. I'm either going to completely demolish it and reshape it all, or maybe I'll remake my own little village on the side of the mountain here. Now, at this point of the video, I would usually be switching over to a creative world to open up Axiom and to design this entire thing before I even recorded anything, just so I had it all ready. But today, we're going to take a little different approach. We're going to do this all by hand, just slowly. I don't need to rush this. It's a nice, tranquil area. Doesn't need to be a stressful thing. So, first things first, we need to kind of choose the about size we want in this thing. I don't want it to just be a single tiny little hole. I want it to be decently sized, but obviously this isn't another mega base, so we gotta kind of choose an in-between size. Now, the problem with kind of doing this all by hand in survival with no creative forethought or any planning whatsoever, I don't really have much experience in that. It's been a long time since I've kind of first designed something just in survival mode, because I got my start on YouTube making everything in creative, and I did that for months and months. So it's been a long time since I've actually just gone in and manually picked out blocks, designed things, just worked on it one by one. I usually like having it all planned out in creative where I know all the blocks are available and everything is nice and easy. So with making a kind of pond area, I don't know how to make kind of like a natural feel, because by this time I'd be opening up like the elevation tool, digging out a nice hole, roughening it up, smoothing some edges. Can't really do that in survival. So I'm gonna come up with a nice idea to kind of give it a little bit of randomness that I can't really do on my own. Alright, looks like we're having a little bit of rain right now, but that kind of helps because what I'm actually looking for is right over there. So this little guy right here is gonna help me creating a kind of natural, I guess not natural, but unnatural. Ooh, that's a little dangerous. Hopefully nothing strikes any wood, because I do have fire spread turned on in this world. No, not yet. You gotta give me a second. We're gonna get him back over here. Alright, now that he's back over to the main area, I think we're just gonna set him up right in the center. And we gotta get the perfect distance. Alright, and that's a good start for a bit of unnaturalness, so let us go and find a couple more creepers. Aw, man. Almost got one of those horse riding zombies with the spear. So close. I just didn't have any name tags on me. So now in my ender chest, I've got one named horse and one named zombie. I don't know if you need two, just extra. And then I have one more plus some iron. So if I ever need to capture something, because the museum is still not filled, we'll need to get one of those. And I've actually, that's the first time I've seen it in hardcore, or survival for that matter. Usually I had to spawn them in or find a way for them to spawn for seeing them actually in creative, but that's a shame. He despawned because I had to run back to the base to get the name tag and use an anvil. What a shame. Oop, sounds like there's a zombie below me, but that is a start. I only got a couple creepers because the nights are not long enough and I don't have a lot of space where they spawn. So I had to kind of run back and forth, but we got a good start. And whilst I was doing this, I kind of thought I could use TNT. I mean, it's basically the exact same thing, and I've got infinite gunpowder now, so why didn't I just do that? Alright, we got a couple pieces of TNT. Let's try and save these redstone torches. And that's quite a bit easier, and I think the explosion's actually quite a bit larger than a creeper. I had to go and get a... oh, I guess I lost my shield somehow. But I made a shield real quick out of that tree, and that kind of helped. Alright, let's do one over here. I guess I can sacrifice that one. I've also been going around fixing up a little bit of this terrain that's a little bit messy, like these holes here. Don't want anything kind of crawling out of them. I'm gonna have to spawn-proof underneath, of course, because I don't want any zombie or skeleton noises whilst I'm sitting in my zen area. Alright, that's kind of natural. Let's look above. So for size, I'm not going to go too much further over this side because I got the ravine here. I don't want to have to fill the whole thing in. So I guess maybe elongating it, because I don't want it to be a circle. I want it to be kind of unnatural shaped. I guess we get the torch back. Let's put one here, one here. Ooh, that shifted it a little bit. Let's take another look. Ooh, we're breaking into a cave. I think we're going to go a little bit more towards this side. Maybe one right here to get maximum amount of blocks breaking. Let's see, how's that look? Alright, that's kind of interesting. We have a big open area and then like a smaller area. And maybe this kind of forms into like a little river that flows into it or something. I know I want to have like a massive waterfall. Maybe when I clear out all these villages, I can reshift all the terrain and have it like a glacial waterfall where there's a bunch of water stored up here in the mountains and it feeds a nice waterfall that goes into here. Maybe have like a river going along. Maybe having like a small, like the river goes down this way and then out into the ocean, but then like a small little area comes off and like a brook kind of shifts down into the pond with a small waterfall, like 1 or 2 blocks tall. Nothing too huge. But I think we're going to kind of shape this out now, and then we should be good to start placing stuff. Alright, we got the first kind of shape original. Maybe this one's sticking out a little bit odd. So we got the kind of shape, but now I want to fix the bottom, because obviously you don't want stone, coal, bit of gravel, cobblestone, dirt. That just doesn't look good underwater. So I think we're going to have to get a little mix of materials. Obviously, we're going to do a bunch of mud because I love how it looks, especially with my shaders on. It makes everything look so much darker underneath. But I'm going to go and research a couple different palettes. Maybe fix that up a little there. Yeah, it looks a little bit better. Just having a bit of depth. I mean, I wish I could have the kind of river or pond at different levels, but water doesn't really work that way in Minecraft. It doesn't kind of like make a smooth edge. You'd have very harsh ridges. So that's kind of where the brook is going to come in, so maybe I'll make that in this episode, and then eventually I'll connect it up to the big waterfall wherever that's going to be, because I can kind of snake it around and force it into the right shape. So now let's kind of go and pick a palette out for the bottom of this little pond. Alright, so for some resource gathering, we've got a bit of moss from my new moss farm. I got a bit of mud from my mud farm, some bamboo and sugarcane, maybe for a bit of decoration, the moss carpets. Give a nice bit of like elevation, like depth on like just a flat surface, though that helps like around the edge. Maybe some of these flowering azaleas either in this form themselves or in the tree form. I don't know if I'm in a custom tree. I might do a custom tree. Maybe these will just be scattered around the outside. And while I was thinking maybe the mangrove roots, but not the roots because I don't want it to be like empty. Maybe some of these floating in the water. I was thinking, for the muddy mangrove roots, it can't be just as easy as... oh, it is just as easy as that. So we can use all 3 of these in the water. These ones can be kind of waterlogged, I assume, to get a little bit of color like the blue into the cracks. And it kind of creates a gradient. I don't know how the water will look, but that's definitely an option. So we toss these in here. Let's grab... couple more stacks just to be safe. Maybe some of the propagules just to grow. Any of these other trees? I don't think so yet. I don't know which custom type of tree I'm going to build, but that's something for later to figure out. Alright, and another thing, I think these might look good on the edge, kind of like give a gradient, because it helps going from like maybe the mud to the grass or moss, whatever I decide with. And I think these work pretty well, the leaf litter. I know I can smelt them up, but I think it's just easier to come up and snag a bunch just really quick like this. And I totally forgot about this, since it just did that big thunderstorm. We're gonna get all this snow back. I had to remove all this just so I could get a good thumbnail for the last video. That was a massive pain to do. So we're definitely gonna have to cover this up with like all the moss. I mean, I have some. So basically just the moss carpet. I just go down. For these ones, I'll put the moss on top. And then these ones, I'll go grab some of that pale moss. Oh, I don't know. Can we do that for the moss farm? I guess I could switch out, instead of using the moss, I could switch it out to the pale moss and maybe get some of those carpets up, and then we'll clean this up hopefully by the end of today's episode. So we got lots of greenery, some lily pads, vines. I just grabbed whatever I thought might fit. And then we got our leaf litter, some dirt, a couple more buckets for the water. So now we're going to test out a couple different ones, not in the pond itself. We're just going to make little kind of holes. I guess we can just basically dig down like this, just so I can see the like kind of how it looks with the shaders, because obviously I always use shaders. So we're going to just replace these like with the, where is it? The mud, and just see how it looks with water. Alright, so first up we have the mud, which obviously looks pretty good. Obviously I would work on the sides as well. I'm just going to go for the depth. Then the mangrove root. I think it would work as a good accent. Obviously not the whole thing. The majority is going to be mud, I think. And then if we just go for the roots, you can actually see the difference. I put water into this one, so this one's waterlogged. So you can actually kind of see through it, which I don't really like. So maybe I'll put mud underneath and then have it not waterlogged. And then it kind of creates, because we can kind of see the stone through it. So let's, got a bit of mud. We're just going to pop that out. Let's come down here, replace this with mud, and then toss that on. Ooh, come on the other side, because my shadow's kind of in the way. Oh, it's on the way this side too. Can't really tell a difference. Maybe you guys can see it better than I can. I mean, let's take the shaders off. I mean, obviously, it's a lot different without shaders. Ooh, looks like I missed a bit of water. That's also one of the downsides of shaders. I can't tell when water is flowing. Ooh, but this one looks a lot different. Definitely can't have it waterlogged for when it's in this kind of form. These look a lot darker, but let's pop this back on. Yeah, I definitely prefer with the shaders, obviously. So I think we're going to do majority of mud, do a little bit of accenting with this, and then maybe have these like floating on the top. How does it look? So we can have it like that. Doesn't really change, but it looks like a little bit of like litter, I guess, like compared to the, where is it? Like the leaf litter, we can have it like kind of like this. And that might be good to have like either on the edge, or maybe we have some floating in the center where we have like a tree hanging over top and all the leaves have kind of fallen in and died. That kind of works. We can play around with that as well as all the rest of these greeneries. So let's quickly replace it all with mud first, and then we can do some accenting. Alright, I think that's looking pretty good. I ran out of mud, so I started doing the roots already. I didn't realize they're directional blocks, so you can have a little bit of a noise pattern with it either going side to side or the kind of top view, just depending on what you want. Gives a little bit more texture. Might add a little bit more in, but over here where this stone is gonna be the tree. Now, I kind of want a good angle, so it's actually perfect the sun is setting right here. So I think I'm gonna have a nice bench kind of right here, so I can sit and watch over the kind of pond here. Maybe have the brook either coming to the right or the left of me, whichever way I decide. And I want a tree kind of arching over, just so that this is like perfectly framed. I want it to be like a nice picture so I can sit here, enjoy all the water, kind of the reflections, and the perfect time being obviously sunset. So what we have to work on now, well, obviously we'll have to do the tree, but I can only really do that when I know the angle. So I'm going to wait for the next sunset, But whilst we're waiting for that, we're gonna have to sleep and then it'll go all the way around again. We can kind of work on what we want. So I had a little bit of the roots here because this is where like the tree is gonna fall in. Obviously the roots are gonna be like up to maybe like here. So this is an axe tool. So the water's gonna be at this level. We got plenty of other things like these bushes and stuff, which are gonna add the ambiance. I guess it has to wait for, oh no, they're already starting because it's getting to night. So that'll help a lot, as well as all the other different things. I'm thinking maybe having the glowberries hang down. Can we test that? Is this how you do it? Yeah. And then I'll grow them and maybe either have it as this, or we can have it as the kind of glowing part of it. And now I think I'm going to quickly fill this whole thing up. It won't take too long, so let's cut to that quick. All right, we've done a little bit more detailing. I've actually added in a little bit of smooth basalt because it kind of works as like a little bit of highlight. It's a little bit brighter than the mud and mangrove root. And here's where my bench is going to be. This is kind of my matching spot. And as we're just waiting for the sun to kind of come into place. So this is kind of just a temporary to get the shape of it. I'm going to bring it a little bit lower here. But I think I'm just waiting for it to come down a little bit. We're going to have it hang over. So we're going to have to go up again. We're gonna add a little bit more curve to it. And then after this part, it's gonna go down a little bit. Let's quickly run down. It's tricky to do. And then I think, yeah, so we want the sun to be around there. So we're gonna peak this area. So bring it down 2 more blocks there. Let's custom build this tree and finish up the detailing. And then we should have a pretty nice area to relax. All right, and after quite a long break, actually, I just didn't really do much recording. I just kind of built and relaxed. That's kind of the point of this video. And let's take a look at what we've accomplished. So, as you can see, major changes. So, first up, the tree. It's no longer here because I made about 20 different versions and I could never get the sun in the right place. So I just replaced it with a nice little kind of stony platform area just to kind of fill the space. Now, as you can see, the tree is done and it is magnificent. So I made the change so instead of it coming over and like circling around the sun kind of just rests in this Y formation and did lots of leaves, just a bunch of random kind of patterns of the sticks, or I guess the branches, as well as a bit more greenery. As you can see, I got some vines growing, and I think, yeah, you can see there's the string, so it's not going to grow any further. I hope that one doesn't grow any further. I got some of the glowberry bushes all over around, and then we've got more of these firefly bushes, but I didn't want too many around, so I've snuck a couple underneath these. You can put the carpets on top. Sadly, that doesn't activate them during the day because the light is still getting to them, so we got a couple going around, so it makes this tree a little bit more magical. Now, for the water. You can see we've got a little bit more detail. Not sure how much I had in the previous shot, but I've moved the kind of branches, the mangrove roots over to where the tree is to make more sense. I went and got a couple sea pickles because they add a little bit of light to the whole thing, as well as a bunch of fishies. So originally I grabbed a bunch of the cod, but then I wanted a little bit more of a color pop, so I went over to a warm ocean biome and grabbed a variety of different tropical fish. They kind of group up together, and one problem I've been having, because I've built a little bit of a brook that's going to be coming from the waterfall from here, so they occasionally swim up this area, but thankfully none have died yet. I might have to do a little bit of protection, or maybe something that maybe stops them from going up that way. But another big thing you might notice, if we run over here, we've got a little bit of a gazebo out here. I just thought, oh, looks like we've had Enderman visiting. I just thought this side looked a little bit blank, so every time I was kind of thinking of what's next, I would come back over here, sit on the bench, look at the shot, which is approximately this, at F1, and this area felt just so empty, and I didn't want to just add more trees, so I thought a nice gazebo might fit. You can look over the water, or over the mountains, or whatever is going to be back over there. Now, you might be wondering what's all these chains kind of sitting around. I'm inefficiently oxidizing them for these cattails. So as you can see, I tried with the green stained glass, but with the shaders on, if you're coming over to this side, it's very hard to see. I mean, look, even if I zoom in, it's very difficult. So I thought I'd give the shot to the oxidized chains, see how that looks. I'm either going to do that or maybe the lightning rods. That might also work. I mean, I wish it was more green, but there's not much you can do in this area. I also went around, got some berry bushes, just kind of bone mealed the ground a bit more, and fixed up the terrain. And as you can see back here, I've done a little bit more of the bone mealing to get the ground further out. I still got a little bit more to do, but it's just a pain whenever you grow it. It grows all the kind of bushes and azalea stuff, so you have to break it all. So that's just something to do casually. And you might notice these rooted dirt. I got a couple from the azalea trees because that's where I got all the leaves. This is going to be like a path maybe when I figure out like what this is going to connect to. So we got it coming from the gazebo on this side, and then it's just going to follow along here. And then over on this side, you might see this little dig out or dugout. This is where the river is going to come from the waterfall. So I kind of made a somewhat of a path. So the waterfall is going to crash down here. The main river is going to go this way. And then a small little off break is going to feed into my pond. So that's going to be kind of filling it all in. I've filled in the crevasse, the kind of canyon that was here, just so that it kind of doesn't look too out of place. I think it's actually right here. So I might bring that back, but I want to have the river flowing through here, and then we'll fly really quick. You can kind of see I made the path. That's where it's going to go and into the ocean. So it's going to have another like kind of waterfall here. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but that's for another episode. And the final thing for today's episode is actually right here in this dirt hut. Hopefully he's still in here. He is not. I had a skeleton in here. I was trapping creepers in, and I was collecting some music discs because I wanted a nice kind of like jukebox kind of planted. I'll actually grab that. What I wanted is a nice little jukebox. Maybe I'll just bury it in the ground here, where whilst I'm sitting, I can play some calm music. The problem is, none of these are very calm in my opinion. Like, a lot of them sound very like upbeat and just, I haven't found the one I wanted, which is, let me go check, the weight disc. So it's one of the basic ones that you have to get from killing a creeper with a skeleton. And I was unlucky and couldn't get any. I got a couple more somewhere. Here, yeah, here we go. We got a couple I found in my storage. But even that isn't enough to kind of get the right one. So we'll see if I can get it by the end of today's episode. If not, that'll be a quest for another episode because waiting for nighttime, it's getting close. So we'll get our final shot with the sun in the right spot. So let's just do a little bit of cleanup, and then we should be good to end the episode. And as the sun falls into place, that is where we're going to leave today's episode. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a like and subscribe for more episodes coming soon. Until next time.